very much. And today is really going to be an update for a lot of people that follow the story. And then I hope for any of the new people that are online, we'll give you a little bit of a flavor for what we do. This is a great picture. I'm actually not far from here today. This is in Trinidad. I'm down here for the Trinidad Annual Energy Conference that's on right now, which is really well attended. So it's a nice place to be, considering head office is in Calgary, where it was about minus 45 last week. So this is a nice place to be. Give you a quick little overview of Touchstone at a glance. Our market capitalization is about 100 million pounds. We trade on AIM and on the Toronto Stock Exchange, on the main board on Toronto. 2023 daily production, natural gas, we were about 40 million cubic feet a day. Crude oil barrels per day, we're about 1,700. So that gives you net production. Sorry, not last year. This would be our November production. We were about 8,200 BOEs a day for November, and a little higher than that for December, because there really wasn't much change in any of the production. Gas production was up slightly. Current facility capacity that we have is about 21,000 BOEs per day. And you'll hear me say it a number of times through this presentation. Really, the mode we're in right now is drill to fill. We've got all this capacity we can do. Our reserves are about 75 million barrels. We'll have a new reserve report out in March, and our reserve life index is 24 years. And I think that the significance of that reserve life index is really we've still got a lot bigger reserves than we have production. That's why you'll see us in this drill to fill mode. A little different approach today for us in that we've got some drone shots that were done in the last 3 days here, and kind of walk you through some of our assets. But this is our Coho facility that came on in October of 2022. It's already done 2.6 BCF of gas. You can see it's a pretty simple facility, and right down the middle where you see a little bit of that erosion is where the pipeline goes to the central block facility where we sell. Our plan is to drill to fill this. It's 24 million a day of capacity. We have a development well that we're going to drill in here, about 5,500 feet in depth. It'll take off to the sort of northwest. And then we also have an exploration target in here called Gibba, which will be drilled to 11,000 feet. And it actually goes to the southwest, but it'll intersect the Coho structure as well. So at the end of the year, we could end up with 2 development wells in here that'll tie in. They'll be drilled right from the pad. Then you take a look at the Cascadura facility, and this is pretty spanky new, September 2023, but it's already done 6 BCF of gas. It's a combination of gas and liquids. You can kind of see what's there. The plant is designed for 200 million cubic feet a day. Currently about 90 million cubic feet a day going through it. You can see a little bit of a flare there. That's the vent gas that's coming off the top of the tanks. That's the only gas that's being flared. Everything else is being conserved. We've got 8 development wells, and I'll talk about that a little bit coming up. The first one is actually been spud on January the 6th. And then that'll all come back to this plant. And that's, again, a drill to fill model. Here's the Cascadura C site, as we call it. And as I mentioned, that got spudded in January the 6th. This rig's capable of about 15,000 feet. This well will likely go to somewhere between 7 to 8,500 feet. We'll just kind of see where we end up on it. We've cemented the second string of casing in that, and we'll be drilling out from there in the next couple of days. So it walks from cellar to cellar. We don't actually have to break it down and move it. There's some real efficiencies in here. You can see that's a beautiful site in there. Let's just talk about the Q3 highlights that we've got. Q3 is when this plant came on, so we've got 167% increase in our production, and that was really all from the CAS facility coming on. The mix obviously changed, and our natural gas sales now make the majority of our production base. The netbacks are up significantly. We're moving very large volumes now on a BOE basis without hardly any operating costs. It's a very efficient, especially when you look at that Coho and Cascadura plant. And then the 850% increase in the funds flow from Q3 to where we were. And I think that's really important, because we had always talked about all this free funds flow that were going to start coming in once this came on, and I think that's an early indication of it. And again, you'll see Q4 numbers out when we put our year-end numbers out in March, towards the third week of March. And also, as a result of these big reserves coming on, we're starting to see really positive earnings, which is, I think, something else that's really, really important when we take a look at it. So you can see all the Q3 numbers. These are also on our webpage if you want to go there. But it really was a year of transition for us in 2023, and 2024 is just going to continue on that basis. So the significant increase in production, from the 1,500 to the 8,200 BOEs a day that we saw in November, and as I said, it was a little higher in December. So we completed the construction of the CAS facility. Came on a little bit later than we liked, but the good part is we brought it on without any incidents from a health and safety point of view. It's functioning beautifully, and we've got lots of capacity for future wells that come on. And then the other thing that we've done is we've used a little bit of technology in here, in that we're not pulling any power off of the grid. We're generating all of our own power on the two sites, and we're also using some solar for some of it. So it's from a ESG point of view, it's worked out really well for us. And then the other thing that we did in 2023 and still working on is expanding our footprint. And that really talks about beyond 24 to 25, 26, 27. And these were the assets that we picked up in the onshore bid round for Rio Claro and some other things, and some property swaps we did. I'll get into that a little bit more. So we are now the largest independent onshore producer in Trinidad, and we're 79% gas. We've done almost all of this through our exploration program. We now have 229 identified drilling locations throughout the asset base, and as I say, on the 150,000 acres, that's really great. The owned and operated infrastructure, the last couple of years, have really been for us building these facilities and building out the capacity. And it hasn't been the most exciting thing for the capital markets, in that it took a lot of time, took a lot of money, and we really didn't see the production uptick until October. But what we now have is we've got 42,000 BOEs a day of potential processing capacity when you look at Coho, when you look at CAS, and you look at our historical assets. So now what we really do is we can spend the money, fill these plants up, and it lowers operating costs. It just, all that money falls to the bottom line. So I like to think of it as being a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain, and really is where we can start to go now. I think the other thing is, we've got a great presence here in Trinidad. We've been here a long time. Being the largest onshore producer now, I know at the conference here, we've certainly got good representation, good access to all the people that we need, so yeah, I think we're in a very good position in where we are. Corporate production, you can see this big jump, and that's really the Cascadura production up to about 8. In December, you see that tick up again as we started to optimize the wells a little bit, and then the solid base production that we have below that as well. The guidance that we put out, so our capital expenditures next year will be about $33 million. We're looking for a range of between 9,000 and 9,700. It'd be 82% gas. And then the big exit rate that you see, so we go from that 9,400, basically average production, up to 14,000 at the end of the year. That is the wells that we're drilling right now, and that assumes that 2 of those wells are successful. The Coho wells that we're talking about drilling wouldn't come on until 2025. And what we do is we end up with funds flow from operations about 32 million. So basically, we're spending all the money that we're bringing in next year. Our debt would be about 25 million, which is less than 1 times debt to cash flow, which is the target Scott has for us. So, we're in this resource-rich basin. When we look at the assets that we have, we look at Cascadura. We've got 2 development wells that we're going to drill there in the first half. And as I mentioned, James and his team have been able to get that spudded and well underway on January the 6th. And we're looking for first production on that in late Q3. Coho and Giba, development wells in there, 1 development well and 1 exploratory well, although it's going to nick the edge of the Coho structure. We're looking to spud those in Q4 2024, and then first production in Q1 of 2025. We might be able to accelerate that program a little bit if things kind of go as planned, but certainly we're ready to drill those at any time that we want to. And then the 2 legacy wells, these are 2 obligation wells over on the legacy blocks, offsetting our best probably reserve and production oil well. So those 2 wells, They were scheduled to move in the end of January. It looks like now they're going to be towards the end of February. Doesn't really change anything in the model for us. Just want to talk about Cascadura for a minute. If you look at that CAS, the ST1 and CAS Deep, they're producing from two different sheets. The CAS1 ST1 well is producing from the upper sheet. It's got about 600 feet of perfs in it, and it's performing beautifully. The second well, CAS Deep, is producing from the lower sheet. It's got it's just over 150 feet, I think, of perforations in it. It's producing a little less than we thought. We were hoping to get 20 million a day out of it. It looks like it's about 9 or 10 million. We talked about doing a reperf on that in the first half of this year. Happy to report the well actually got shut in today, and the reperf will probably happen in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see that. We'll see that maybe have an impact on the first quarter if we can get that on. The CAS2 well is the well that we're drilling right now, and you can kind of see that it's a step out to the east. It'll help define the seismic. But the key thing as we drill these development wells is we won't be producing from lower and upper sheets. We'll actually be perforating everything. So when you look at kind of the potential rates out of this and the effective cost of capital that we're going to have, it becomes much more efficient as we do. So if CAS2 and CAS3 work out, we actually have 4 more locations in between those, as well as additional exploration up dip to the east. So, critical well we're looking at drilling here in what we're looking at doing. So pretty exciting going on right now when you got the recompletion going on and you got the active rig. So exciting stuff right now for us. Coho, this gives you an idea where we're going to go on the 3D. So we're going to drill from the same surface location as the plant. We're going to go up there to the northeast. We move up structure a bit on the 3D. That well's just leveled off. It's just rock solid right now, pressure and volumes. So it gives us pretty good confidence to go move this next well. And then as we drill to the south, basically from the same pad again, we'll drill this Giba prospect. And the Giba prospect sits right between Central Block, which is a big shell property to the south that's going to produce probably 300 to 500 BCF of gas, and our Coho prospect to the north, trapped up against this fault. So we're in that gas neighborhood. It's a big structure on the 3D, so we can drill it from that same location. So that'll be our exploration prospect from Coho. Those wells should be able to come on within a couple of months of when they're drilled because they're right at the plant there. So perfect world, we'd like to get that plant up to 24 million a day by first quarter of next year. So you look at the blocks that we've now put together. We've got this 42,000 BOEs a day of capacity. We've got big acreage. We've got over 200 drilling locations. The nice thing is we can kind of high grade those as we move along, depending on the results. Some of them will move up, some of them will move down. We've only booked about 70% of those locations, so we haven't thrown everything at this in the 75 million barrels. You look at the acreage that's through here. The blocks we put together with Sapero, Chiruma, which are the new licenses that we're going to sign. Rio Claro, also a new license that we're looking to sign once the government gets all the paperwork in place, and then the various opportunities that we have at Oratois. Just zooming in a little bit, and I think this kind of gives you an idea of what these blocks could look like. We've had this block for almost 10 years, so I guess it's over 10 years now, and you can see Coho and Cascadura. But you can see all the other structures that we've identified. The Royston structure to the south. I think obviously a disappointment. We've tested it, looked fantastic on logs. It's just not economic. So we're going to step back from that, figure out if we've crossed a fault or what we've done, and figure out what to do. But even on this block, you've got 24 exploration locations, 14 prospects, and if we were successful, we target to increase 2P reserves by about 50%. So that's just on this block. This isn't even on some of the other blocks that we have. So we're prospect and inventory rich at this particular point. Give you an idea of one of them that we really like is this Kokanee prospect. Sits right south of Cascadura. We drilled a well down at Chinook that was quite a ways down dip. It did show oil, but we couldn't get economic rates. We think as we move up dip here, again on the 3D seismic, we'll get a combination of possibly better reservoir, and we could even see gas up here. It's one of the reasons we like this. If it is gas, we can run it right up to the Cascadura facility. So, it's certainly nice. Kraken well. This is a play called the Cretaceous, which is what they're having success with in Guyana, Suriname. There is a history of drilling Cretaceous in Trinidad. We think that the new model that they have in Guyana has never been applied to Trinidad. So we think that there's a couple of, probably 3 really great Cretaceous anomalies on our land. We are going to put them together as a program because there's some different tools and different things you need to do to drill the Cretaceous, and you'll see that drilled. It's not going to get drilled this year. It'll be sometime in the future, but certainly it's very, very exciting in what we have. And then we've got the Rio Claro Balata Deep, the exploration that we have over there. It's this is an offsetting block to what we have, and it's directly offsetting anything in here we would just bring back to the Cascadura. And I'll flip through that fairly quickly. I'm not sure it helps to look at all the technical. This is what my favorite play. This is Sapero to the north of Coho, sort of right on strike with Cascadura. It's a fantastic looking structure. It has both the Herrera and the Cretaceous in it. There was a well that was drilled offsetting it. Gives us some good geological control, but it's certainly one where at 4,500 to 10,000 feet we can evaluate the Herrera, which is very similar to what we see at Cascadura. So I think you'll see this near the top of the list with Kokanee on our exploration program. Chiruma to the north, block that is where the Cretaceous is the shallowest, so we can actually test the Cretaceous at 7,000 feet. So basically the same depth we're drilling some of our Herrera wells as we move to the north here. And there is a well that was drilled in it. It's a prospect that a lot of other parties have wanted to drill. I think it'll be nicely in our inventory, and once we get the license, we'll prioritize it. But hopefully it gives you a little bit of a flavor. We've got all these development wells to drill at Coho and Kaz, and then we've got this abundance of exploration opportunities as we go forward. On the ESG front, I won't get into all the details here, but we keep an eye on all 3 of those. The one I think that is really great is the lost time incidents. We've built 2 gas plants now. We've drilled a bunch of wells. We had a lot of bodies out there on those construction projects, and they were pulled off. So really commend the team on that in what we look at. So in summary, the investment case, we've got a bunch of development opportunities. The fixed price gas contract that we have, although I think when gas prices were much higher in the U.S., a lot of people sort of questioned it, but now we're basically higher than Henry Hub price, but it's also fixed, paid in U.S. dollars. So it really allows Scott to have some ability to budget on a fairly predictive basis when got 70 or 80% of your production at a fixed price. We've got some really, really great organic growth prospects that are sort of step outs to where we have the plant. We've always got opportunities to expand our asset base. Certainly the Crown land sale or the onshore bid round is one that we took advantage of. And the best part about it is there's a real shortage of gas on the island in Trinidad. So any molecule that we find of either gas or oil can get to market, and gets to market very, very quickly. So that's probably the biggest thing for us. So that's my summary, and I look forward to any questions, and hopefully I got us through enough time that we can do it.
Okay, Paul, that's great. Thank you. We've got some questions for you. Are you ready? Number 1, are you still in negotiations with the NGC with regard to gas pricing? Have you had any positive feedback?
Yeah, we have had discussions with them, and we continue to have discussions with them. I think in fairness, though, it was a lot easier to have that when gas prices in the U.S. were $12 versus $2, because that's the market they compete with. They have to supply the petrochemical business down here. But, I don't want to show our hand here, but the short answer is yes, we are having discussions with them, and they are very receptive to that. And if you look at some of the other producers on the island, like EOG, Shell, BP, all obviously much bigger names than us, they all renegotiated their contracts last year.
Okay, I've got quite a few questions, so I'll try and get through as many as I can for you. How is the Balata East license swap progressing?
Yeah, it's progressing. That's probably my answer. There's no obstacles to it. It's just a matter of pushing paper right now, and that's what we're doing. And it's part of the reason I'm down here too. It's sometimes being on the ground, you can push things along a little bit. I don't think there's any concern it's going to happen. It's just taking time, as everything does down here.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Once the perforations in Cass Deep are completed, is the plan to ramp up output to 60 mmsf/d?
Yeah, I think it's that's a short answer to that is yes. Like, let's not get too excited about this. In that we're starting with a fairly small portion of the deep reservoir that we're going to reperf, and we're going to do this in a very cautious manner. Like, we want to be able to get good data on what we have. Like, for instance, we ran recorders in the wells last week, so we get good downhole data. We actually shut the well in for 3 days so that we could get really nice build up and use some science on this. Take this opportunity for the science, and then we'll go and we'll sort of add. I think the plan right now is we're almost adding perforations in 10-foot intervals. We can do this without a service rig, so we can kind of move it in and out as we want. It's really highly effective in what we're doing. So yeah, that's the story, and yes, that's the target is for sure. We'd love to get to that 60 million number.
Okay, I'll just touch on money, if I may. Have you got the bank agreement done with the increased capacity?
Uh, Short answer to that is no, but don't forget when we put out that guidance, we said we'd get that done by the end of the first quarter. I can tell you we're well ahead of that schedule, but yeah, and there's no, again, it's kind of like the Belata deal. It's happening, and I know nobody can take this sort of all the way, but the bank's been really good with us, and so we just continue to work with them on that. And as soon as we've got it done, we'll let everybody know for sure. And right now we're in a position where we don't need it right now anyway. We're drilling with cash that we have. So
Okay. How are the discussions going with the government for a higher gas price, and what kind of increase do you see occurring?
yeah, I think I covered that off at the beginning that
Yeah,
we're in negotiations with that, and I don't want to show my hand on that
no,
in
fair
where
enough.
we're at pricing.
Fair enough. When will the next development well at Casadura be complete and test results released? How quickly can this well be brought on? Did you cover that?
Yeah, not really. I didn't sort of cover that all off. So the wells are about 35 days is what the target is. And so they'll kind of go back to back. Depending on what we see on logs, we may or may not test them. There's a whole bunch of different decision points going on. But our target right now is to have all the development wells on by the end of September of this year.
Okay. Um, how deep have you drilled at Cassie?
We're at 3,800 feet today.
Will you drill into Rio this winter/spring if and when the asset swap is approved?
Uh, yeah, there's a couple of things that drive that. Number one would be having success in these next couple of wells because it's again further to the east. So we want to make sure that we're on the right track. We're not obviously going to spend money if for some reason something goes wrong on the development wells. But um, so and then it'll depend on funding and kind of where we're at. And I have no idea how long that Rio swap will take. We'll put some pressure on the government if we're in a position where we can move on it and it's just waiting on them.
Okay. What reasons have been given by the MEEI for the delay in finalising the licence round? Did I get that
I
right?
Yeah, you did. I actually had a quick conversation with the permanent secretary yesterday at the conference, and she said that they want to sign all the licenses at the same time. So I think there's 5 or 6 parties that were successful, and she said there's a couple of parties that they're still finalizing terms with, which I'm guessing means they're trying to figure out how they can provide the letter of credits. So that's probably or the drilling guarantees, not letter of credits, drilling guarantees, and then she wants to sign them all at the same time. So that's what she's telling me is the delay. I asked her specifically, do you need anything more from us? And she says nothing more from us.
Okay. Time for a couple more. Have you seen a stable condensate production per mmcf gas produced, and what volume you're seeing now?
Yeah. So when the wells came on, they came on about 30 barrels per million, like for the first couple of weeks. That number was, we had budgeted about 20. It looks like the real number in the wells have now really stabilized on us. Before we shut Cas Deep in was about 13 barrels per million. And that would be consistent with what we see at South Block or Central Block to the south. So that looks like that's going to be the number that we see. A little bit lower than we had forecast, but um, and as we move up structure here to the east, we're anticipating seeing drier gas as we move away from the liquids window a little bit.
Okay. The figures on, in quote, Stockopedia suggest less than 70 employees, less board members. If that is correct, how do you run such a sized operation with so few people?
Yeah. Did you say 70, Chris?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually higher than that. We actually have 85 people in Trinidad and 15 people in Calgary. So it's almost 100 folks. But yeah, when you look at it compared to where we're at, I think the key thing is there's some very big wells, right? Like you look at Coho and the Caswells, you've got over half of our production coming from 3 wells, right? So you don't need that many employees to do that. We do use quite a bit of technology in what we do. I think
Yeah.
that from that point of view, that works pretty well as well. So we've got, communication set up. And the other part too is they're 2 brand new facilities, right? So, a bunch of our production is coming from state of the art new facilities.
Okay. One quick last one. Any update on Royston? Did you cover that?
I did cover it off. I think, I sort of, I don't want to, get anybody the wrong impression on that. I mean, it's a huge disappointment, right? It looked great on logs and it just didn't test. We just couldn't make it work. So we're all kind of stepping back. We'll put together a little bit of a study group. We'll maybe reach out to some other consultants.
Okay.
Maybe even try some AI technology. We'll throw it in Chat GPT, see what it comes back to us with. But
Yeah.
but uh, but
Okay.
no, in all seriousness, I think it's time for us to kind of step back from it because we did have good results in the first well. It looks like we might have crossed a fault when we drilled the 1X well. But we spent enough money, and with all the other stuff that we got on the go right now, we're just not going to spend any capital there right now. And
Okay.
yeah,
All
it's
right.
just one last thing. We drilled 6 exploratory wells on this block, and we
Yeah.
basically have 3 successes. That's a pretty good ratio, right?
Yeah.
So I think we are gonna, you're gonna drill dry holes along the way. That was a big one though.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, Paul, it's been a pleasure seeing you again. Hope to see you soon in the UK because there was lots more questions, but I just couldn't get through any more for you tonight. So appreciate your time. We'll send the slide decks to everyone listening and watching, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks
Cheers,
for your
Paul.
time. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers now. Bye bye.